Welcome to Here's How We Get There. It's the daily show filled with conversations about business and mental health in a down-to-earth style with real-world language. Now let's dive in with your co-hosts, Kenneth Shark-Kinney and Trey Tucker.
All right, Trey, we're talking about losing, sadly, another legend. We lost famed Hall of Fame coach Bobby Knight at the age of 83. This guy was a juggernaut in basketball. I mean, he is basically the living version of the movie Hoosiers. And he was 83 years old, won 3 national championships. But what are your thoughts about losing the legend Bobby Knight?
I miss him already from coaching. And of course, I know he hadn't been in the public limelight in a long time, but, I just love seeing somebody who's passionate and who lets that passion actually fuel their success. Now, obviously, he had some moments and some parts of his personality that didn't help him out, but that's everybody. Any of our strengths also can turn around and bite us as a weakness. So, I think we just have to look at him as he was a human. He had flaws, but man, his traits, his qualities of just relentlessness and ferocity and passion, they brought him to heights that very few coaches in any sport have ever achieved. So I take my hat off to him as a career and the things I've heard about him as to how helpful he was as a man behind the scenes, where he never wanted any kind of publicity for it. I think, a lot of respect goes to him. And, I know obviously with that fire came some controversy. So, Shark, what do you think? Would he have lasted if he were a more modern coach?
Well, I still remember, I've seen the video 1,000 times, as you probably have, of him throwing the chair. And I believe last time I looked up, it was like 1985 against Purdue. That sounds like a lifetime ago. And to many it is. But this guy was a passion coach. He threw the chair across the floor. I also saw him do a speech. He did a speech where he gave a toast and roast to legendary Lou Holtz before Lou Holtz had even gone to Notre Dame. And I mean, as a little kid seeing him, I thought this guy was like, the god of basketball. I mean, there was Indiana basketball. He was a legend. The guy coached a ton of people. Also, like he coached Jordan for a while. I mean, he coached everybody. This guy was a legend. But he, once he threw that chair across the floor in frustration, that really started to open up a lot more conversations about whether or not he could handle the pressure and everything else, which obviously he did. And that was but I have, to your point, I have zero problem with anybody showing a ton of passion.
Yeah.
In the way he did it, didn't really reflect throwing the chair. I don't think that he would have necessarily gelled well, though, with the modern player. The modern player today, amazing athletes, but Gen Z today wouldn't necessarily react well to somebody that speaks to them like that. That's probably more of a commentary about Gen Z than it is Bobby Knight. I don't know that Bobby Knight would have ever adapted to talking about, yelling at them for not trying hard enough. He would have had to address, getting in touch with their feelings. And that's probably indicative of just a change of times and styles. But you cannot doubt that his style worked. I don't know exactly if it worked when it did work, but amazing coach. And he knew what to get out of his players. May not be a style everybody liked, but it performed. There's less than a handful of coaches that have 3 or more wins. So is that the cost you pay? I mean, Deion Sanders got rid of everybody at Colorado and told them they weren't trying hard enough. Is that any different? What do you think? Would he have gelled with a player today?
I think there is a segment of the players that would actually have really gelled with him. And then, like you said, there are some people that just had never been taught to that way and maybe couldn't adapt fast enough to his style. I remember him telling a story. No, one of his former players telling a story one time, and the player had never been yelled at by anybody growing up. He was always just told how great he was. And Bobby, in his freshman year, just ripped him for not working hard, for whatever the attitude was. And And at first, the player said, I was really mad at him for about 20 minutes. And then it hit me as like, this guy actually cares enough about me to yell at me. Mm-hmm. And the player said, I went over and thanked him and shook his hand and said, thank you. Nobody's ever cared about me enough to yell at me and actually tell me the truth. So thank you very much. So, yeah, I think there would be a segment of him, but I don't know if he could be championship caliber because of the coddledness of some of these guys, the way they've been brought up.
Great point. I think a lot of times we kind of get locked into thinking everybody needs to talk to you as a therapist, when sometimes the people that are in that ilk, they appreciate being talked to that way and getting the best out of them that way. When I taught martial arts, I never really stopped to talk to you about your feelings. I did it so that people could fight better. And I think in Bobby Knight's own way, that's what he was doing as well. And hopefully he's not throwing any chairs up in heaven, if he wants to say. See you soon, everybody.
Thank you for joining Shark and Trey on the Here's How We Get There show. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and visit here'showwegetthere.com. That's here'showwegetthere.com.